going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to preface this video real quick and let you know this is all about the installation process of SPL parts arms on a 350Z or a Z33 chassis, same as like a G35. This video doesn't have any fun driving in it. It's not really exciting. There's lots of those videos on this channel. I encourage you to go check them out. But this is going to be, specifically how to install SPL parts arms on your car. So if you guys are looking to do that or want to learn how to do it right, check this video out. I've got a lot of great information, a lot of key tips and tricks inside. And if you are not looking for that kind of video, check out the rest of the ones on the channel, and I'm sure you'll find something entertaining. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. As you know, I'm Fielding Shredder, and you guys remember Turner from SPL. So we're now dealing with the front of the 350Z suspension, and Turner's going to kind of just go over all these arms, tell us exactly what we're dealing with, and why we want to upgrade the suspension.
So you got yourself your coilovers. First thing you want to do on any car is throw coilovers. You get your lowering, you get upgraded spring rates. Car's a lot sportier.
And I'm running the BC Racing digressive system, so I'm really excited to get to use those.
And then you've gotten all your sportiness from this. You got to have something that handles it.
Okay.
So you've got all your control arms. This is the compression arm. It's going to be what takes all your braking force. You've upgraded the bushing inside the compression arm.
That's a pretty large bushing too, right?
Which is key. So this takes all your braking force.
Okay.
If you hit the brakes with this big old bushing in there, especially on what is now a 15-year-old car, this thing's gonna move around like crazy. Getting rid of that prevents toe change, makes a much steadier brake pedal feel.
Okay.
Here, front lower control arm, kind of the same idea. This is going to see all your lateral loads. We have our white O-rings in here. What those do is your end link is connected to your sway bar, which is connected to the lower control arm. If you don't have something in here that prevents the articulation, this thing's going to rock back and forth when the sway bar hits on it. So those are really important. The reason why we have the black O-ring in this one is to prevent any noise when you hit the brakes. When you're on the brakes really hard, especially people that use a lot of angle.
So the black is softer than the white? Is that
exactly?
Okay.
So people that use a lot of angle, this bushing gets twisted over really hard.
Yeah.
You. And we had some complaints from customers that they'd hear a lot of noise. So we made a little recess in the arm to hold this O-ring, and that way you can get a lot of movement out of the front suspension without any noise.
Okay.
So our front end links are here. We provide spacers on these so that with the adjustable sway bars, you can orient it however you need to.
Yeah.
Because you have different mounting points, you can change the length of this and change how far it's spaced off to hit every one of those mounting points. Adjustable end links are important to prevent preload in your sway bar. That way the sway bar works. It's just a big spring, so if you have preload in it, it's not going to work to its full potential. Your front bump steer adjustable tie rod ends. The reason you need these, whenever you lower the car, it will induce bump steer, which causes a toe change while it sweeps. You don't want that. It makes the car feel inconsistent. It'll make it track along the cracks in the road. It's really annoying.
I felt that.
It's a fantastic improvement. And then finally, the front upper arms. I love these things. They are a really sleek design, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, I know you designed them.
I'm really proud of these.
Yeah.
Caster and camber adjustment's really easy. It's the same socket cap screws that we use on the rear arms and a 12mm socket.
Okay.
Adjust them both out for camber, adjust one out at a time for caster change, and I induced 1 degree of extra caster in the arm to begin with. So generally when you have a more aggressive setup, you want a more aggressive caster.
Okay.
You gain a little bit more camber and a little bit more steering feel. So caster's always good to have.
Nice.
That's the basics of the front suspension here. Really the key to most everything SPL, we keep it lightweight and we get rid of deflection. We want your suspension to work to its full potential. You're not going to have issues with toe change and camber change under high loads that isn't consistent. So you can drive very consistently. We also allow you to tune in your alignment to just that real specific spec.
Yeah.
And it allows you to, really drive the car to its full limit.
Okay, perfect. So now we know all the different arms, we know what they do. Now we got to install them. So where do we start there?
All right, so we're gonna do the front upper arms first,
Okay.
since you have everything off the car.
Right.
Front upper arms, and we'll attach the knuckle to
Okay.
the front upper arm. We'll get the coilover up in there.
Mm-hmm.
We will place these arms on and then slide them up into the coilover. This one has the brace that goes beneath it.
Right.
So we want to attach it to the knuckle first, so it's in the arm, and then we can slide it up over the brace. Then tie rod ends. We're not going to do the end links because we're going to wait until you do your alignment to
All right.
attach the front end links.
Makes sense. All right, let's do it.
All right. You already have the front upper arm on.
So first things first, this hub was worn out, so I bought a new one, and it was only like 50 bucks. This is the little things that will nickel and dime you to death, but it's important on a build like this. You don't want to have a hub go bad in the middle of a race or in the middle of a corner when you hit a wall. So replace it while you can. It's a Detroit axle, just a cheap brand I found online, so not anything fancy, but it works. All right, so next we're gonna go ahead and do the front upper arms. So Turner here has the upper arm. Just kind of work it in there, and then
There is a particular direction these spacers go in. The thin ones go to the middle, thick ones go to the outside.
okay.
But you'll figure it out because it won't go on any other way.
Yeah, that's the only way to get it on. All right, and then we'll grab the hardware. So a little bit of thread lock on each one.
All right.
And feed them in. Pick up just a bit. And these will be torqued to foot-pounds. Perfect. And so now is when you can see how nice that articulation is. And I know that you said these have some break-in,
Yeah.
but definitely very smooth throughout.
Yeah. Once these break in, you will be able to move this thing around no effort. And even just now, this little bit, it gets
Yeah.
a little bit easier.
Nice.
So one thing you want to do on the Z33 and Z34 chassis on each side, there's sometimes some bolts right here, especially on the Z34 chassis.
Okay.
They can come into contact with the arm, so make sure you don't have any metal bolts or anything coming out
On the
through
firewall
this plate
right
right
there.
here.
Yeah.
But you have clearance everywhere, so we're good on this side.
Okay. So it's like a bracket or something where the bolt just kind of pokes through.
Mm-hmm. And then another thing you want to make sure of is that you're putting the arm on the right side of the car.
Oh yeah, that's probably important.
The thinner portion is going to go towards the front of the vehicle. We got thick portion and thin portion here. Also, if you lay the arms on top of each other,
Right.
this OEM and this one, it makes it really obvious which side is which. Just make sure you put it on the right side, because otherwise bad things will happen.
Yeah, or you'll just get most of the way done and be like, crap, and have to rip it all off
Exactly.
and do it again. All right,
So-
what's next?
Throw the knuckle on right here.
Okay. I got that right here.
So we're doing it in this way because you had everything apart. You don't need to take the knuckle off to put this arm on.
Right.
So move this down. Make sure that the ball joint is fully seated. And we'll guide this up. Get it hand tight. We'll tighten this in a little bit. It helps to have the lower arms on to prevent this from trying to spin.
Okay.
So everything will be in place, and then we'll use everything else supporting it to tighten this one up.
Okay. All right, up next is the coilover. These are the BC Racing DS type, which is digressive series. These are the same ones I ran on my S14 for Drift Week.
You can let go.
So it's certainly good to have a friend to help with this. This makes everything easier. All right, now that the coilover is on, I'm gonna slide on this lower control arm. Let's see, we're doing the ball joint first. Just getting that started. And we'll come over here, get the sway bar out of the way. Slide it into the chassis. Move it down a little bit.
Getting these in is always a pain. There's little nubs on the chassis.
All right.
Looks like we're in place there.
Yeah, that looks good.
Send that bolt through. Towards us.
There it goes.
Come on.
Grab the hammer. It's there.
And get this button. Get it shot so it's in the right direction.
Okay, that's in. And now
tighten all this down.
Yeah, so we can bust off the sway bar end link, the old stock one.
Alrighty.
All right, we got that off. Up next, go ahead and tighten these. Again, you know I like to put this Loctite or thread locker on everything. I got this new when I bought this project, this bottle of thread lock. So 1 bottle per build. Pretty good ratio.
I think you're probably above 1 bottle of build.
I know, right? Okay. Sweet. Nice.
So next, compression arm. Not anything complicated, but you are going to need to remove that brace.
Yeah, the big triangulated brace under there. So we just put the ball joint up under here, like that, and then arm on the chassis, put the nut.
Just hold it in place. We have to get both sides on before we get it. We tighten it down because we got to put the brace back on. This will just keep it from falling off while we're installing.
Right. And so then we can see right here is where you put your nut for that ball joint. Tighten that down and then get your cotter pin installed.
Yes, sir.
All right. And now we'll do the outer tie rod.
Yep.
Okay. Let's jump onto that.
So our outer tie rod gets shipped with these 2 jam nuts, and everybody's always confused what they're for. There's no flats on this, so if you try and put this through and then put our lock nut up top, it's just going to spin. So what you want to do before you install, take these jam nuts, start it up by hand till you can get the second one on, and butt it up against the one closest to it. So what we're going to do next, take 2 wrenches and tighten them against each other. This gives you something to grab onto while installing. Get them nice and tight. Alright. Pop this baby on. We'll take this, thread this down.
So that's a locking nut there.
Yep. So it's going to grab a little bit. At the beginning it kind of feels like it's cross-threading because it's a plastic deformation type locking nut. So I always feel a little cross-thready. As long as the first few threads go on normally, you're fine. You're going to take a 19 mil and torque this down to the spec provided in the instructions. Then you'll remove these 2 jam nuts. You want to throw the tie rod end on. We'll grab a 19 mil, tighten this down. I'll show you how to install the rod end and how to check bump steer. You put the nylock on and move on from there. So we hold our jam nuts. All right. Now that this one's on, we can break these apart.
Oh, watch them knuckles.
Alright.
So you take the 2 jam nuts off.
Now, one pro tip, while you're trying to figure out what bump steer you want to use, or what bump steer spacers, which we provide, continue to use the jam nuts until you figure out which one you want to use. And then once you figure out what the correct amount of spacers is, then you put the nylock on. These are a lot easier to get off. So what you're going to want to do is at ride height, you want the ball joint here to the ball joint there. If you draw a line between them, from the heim joint to the inner rod where it's pivoting there, and then you draw a line from the ball joint for the lower control arm to this bolt, which is an invisible line. You want those to be parallel when the car's at ride height.
Okay.
So what we're going to do right now before the alignment, we're just going to throw a 1/4 inch one on just to be safe. We're going to throw the jam nuts on there, and then when we go do the alignment, we'll confirm how many spacers we need. But until that point, use the jam nuts. Just don't put the nylock on until you're sure exactly which one how many spacers you want to use.
And so really the only spacer that matters are the ones above, correct?
Exactly.
And then the rest underneath really just take up the...
And you don't need to put them on underneath.
Okay.
It just takes up a little less thread for you to have to put on.
Yeah.
Getting this lined up can be a pain. It's always a good idea to break. We forgot to break this particular rod loose. It's always a good idea. But just give it a few taps and it'll start sliding up, and once you get closer to the top, it gets easier.
You guys notice that's not a metal hammer.
Yeah, please don't hit it with metal. We anodize it to make it look so pretty. Don't ruin it.
Yeah, don't ruin it.
And then right now,
So now we've got that one thin spacer up under there, and then use the jam nut on the bottom. And that's really all we can do until we go measure it, right?
exactly. We need to have the car fully together before we determine exactly what we want to do with the bump steer tie rod ends. These do not change the way you're going to change toe normally. A lot of people try and adjusting from a turnbuckle because they have one now. They didn't have one before they purchased the part.
Yeah, good point.
You still want to break the jam nut loose here and change your toe by lengthening and shortening the inner tie rod on these flats. If you just turn this, you're just going to move it back and forth. You're not really changing your toe whatsoever.
Okay, because this is a pass-through. It's not a double adjustable. It's not a left and right hand.
They're both
thread.
right-hand threads,
Right.
so it's just going to move back and forth along this shaft, and you're not changing toe at all, and you're just confusing yourself. So,
And how much engagement of the inner tie rod do you want into the turnbuckle?
at least 28 mil.
28
but,
mil, so
Yeah, about 2
over an
centimeters.
inch. Yeah. And then the rest you can take out from the rod end
If you need to.
if you need to.
So do all the adjustment that you can from the inner, and then if necessary, adjust from the out. But we don't want to adjust it out a ton.
Okay. Cool. What's next?
We are going
Brakes, I guess.
to put the brakes back on. Yep.
Okay. So brakes are pretty straightforward. Not really an SPL part, but
Throw the rotors on, bracket, tighten everything down.
Yeah.
Nice and easy.
make sure you guys are torquing all these. We didn't show that, but the ball joints have a very specific torque, and then a cotter pin. Make sure you do that for both the compression arm and the lower control arm. Didn't film that part, haven't done it yet, but we're gonna go ahead and throw both sides on and finish the job.
Fast forward.
Yeah, and edit. All right, so I finally had a chance to actually take this thing on track and test out the suspension. Holy crap, night and day difference. I did test the car when it had completely stock suspension, just so I could get a baseline and know, how much this upgrade would really do. These SPL parts arms are unbelievable. The alignment went really smooth. Adjusting them with that double adjustable is so much better than not. If you're not familiar with that, that means that you don't have to take the heim joint or the spherical off. In other words, unbolt it from the car, make a small adjustment, bolt it back up, take a measurement, and then have to adjust and change accordingly. That is absolutely the worst way to do an alignment, but unfortunately most of the aftermarket arms on the market now are like that. They are doing that because it's cheaper. They don't have that double adjustable, that turnbuckle that we talk about. So I definitely recommend these SPL parts arms. Now that I've used them, I've tried them on track, They held the alignment perfectly. They performed flawlessly. They were really sharp and crisp and great, response to my inputs. Couldn't recommend them enough. I know that I'm sponsored by them, but honestly, the proof is in the pudding. You guys try them out yourself. It's definitely worth a little bit extra cost, and it's a lifetime arm. You will never have to replace it. It will never break. Other things break around it, I'll be honest. So it's probably going to be the strongest part on your suspension. But hey, there's nothing wrong with that. In my personal experience, I would rather break a wheel or a tire or a tie rod, something that's easy to fix, that's inexpensive, and that you typically have spares. A lot of people don't carry spare control arms, and if you do, they're expensive. So it's much better to replace something that's easy to fix. You can replace a wheel and tire in about 30 seconds versus a arm and then having to redo the alignment. It's much easier this way. So grade A+, 100% commitment, whatever, rating you want to give it, 2 thumbs up. Highly recommend it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know that it was a little bit lengthy and there wasn't a lot of exciting footage in it, but that's how an install video goes. If you guys want to check out the rest of the channel, I've got a lot of cool driving videos on it, and I encourage you to just look at the whole repertoire of what I got and check it out. And let me know what you think. And stay tuned. We're going to have the alignment video coming up soon. It's going to come up on the channel here in just a couple of days, so be looking out for that. That's coming up. Show you exactly how to put those arms to good use. Thanks, guys. I'll see you on the next one.